Hello everybody, welcome to Technique Tuesday. Today we're going to be making a diagonal joy fold card. It looks like this, and here is the part that is diagonal. I got the concept from my upline Brenda Miller, who in turn got it from Tammy White, which just goes to highlight the wonderfulness of being able to share all the stamping ideas. It's always nice to give credit to the person who you got the idea from. But the idea is that you get a design or a card or a fold, and then you run with it and you make it your own. So this is the one that I made from the samples that I had seen, and I will go ahead and give you the rundown on how we made it. As always, of course, the dimensions and the directions will be in the description box below, so you don't have to pay too much attention to the measurements as we go along, but they're really not that difficult this time. I know sometimes there's 8ths and 16ths and a smidge of a hair. These are pretty much just quarters. So we'll bring in the paper trimmer and the supplies. So the card base is, as you would expect, it's 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. There's a little inside piece which is 1/4 inch smaller, so it's 4 by 5 1/4. There is a diagonal, which again is just this cut in half. So you cut the piece. This is how the cardstock comes. It was the 6 by 6 Bright and Beautifuls, and what I actually did was I cut it to size to the 4 by 5 1/4, and then I cut it in half. So as you'll see, the sample card has the green at the top and the pink at the bottom, and this one has the green at the bottom and the pink at the top, because I just, this was the whole piece. So I flipped it over because it's lines. Obviously, if it's got a nap or there's flowers or anything that's directional, you'd have to pay a little bit more attention. But because this was just stripes, and if you'd never seen this one, you would just take this one at face value, I could literally just cut it in half and flip it over. So that's the good plus of this Bright and Beautiful pack. Is so lovely. It's got so many fun and funky designs. So this is 4 by 5 1/4, the whole piece. This is 4 by 5 1/4 sliced in half. There is the folding part. This part is actually, it's 3 by 8 scored at 4. So when you fold it in half, it becomes 4 by 3. There are 2 pieces of cardstock, which are 2 1/4 by 3 1/4. One goes just completely on the inside, and the other one is layered, and then there's another piece of white over the top, which again is the 1/4 inch down, so it's 2.5 by 3 1/2. As always, sizes and the dimensions will always be in the bottom. And then there's a piece of scrap white because we need to cut the little raccoon from the Zany Zoo stamp set. So that's how everything works. I actually don't know why I brought the paper cutter in, because everything's already cut for us. So I'll pop that off to one side for now. Oh, I know exactly why I brought it. So because it's a diagonal, we're going to start with the base. And like I said, it's 8.5 by 5 1/2, scored at 4 1/4. Oh, not scored at 4 1/4. I thought I'd scored it. So we'll put it at 4 1/4. And using the light grey scoring blade, just give it a good score. I sometimes get ahead of myself or get carried away, and then I was like, wait, where was I? So there we go. Give it a nice crease with the bone folder, but of course we need this to be just a diagonal. So what I'm going to do is, on the paper cutter, I'm going to line up the top of the front, the top left and the bottom right. So making sure that they're both, it's hard to see, make sure they're both lined up well in the cutting trough, and then we're going to slice this piece off. However, if you try and put the blade against a point, chances are you can crumple it. So the best way to avoid that is to just close the cutter down, press the blade in and cut down, and then you can go back up because it's already been started, and that way you don't crush your corners. So we've got a nice corner that you can put off to one side to use for something else. And now we can take away the paper cutter. So it's got a nice diagonal. So what we're going to do is we'll put the inside in, and we're just going to use the tape runner and quickly line that up on the inside. And then we're going to fold the diagonal over, and this is going to fit. See, like little schmecks of stuff from the paper trimmer. So we just put sticky all the way around the edge. I'm just going to line it up. The nice thing is, of course, these are all color coordinated. So even though the different designs, they all go so nicely together. And then we're going to build the inside flap. So like I said, there are two pieces that are 2 3/4 by 3 3/4, and then the little extra one that's 2 1/2 by 3 1/2. But we're going to put the white on the inside. Actually, I think we'll stamp first, because you know what, it's like measure once, measure twice, cut once. Let's just make sure that we don't make any boo-boos with the stamping. So I'm going to be using the Zany Zoo stamp set, and we'll do happy birthday to you and something great to celebrate you. And because we've got all these lovely colors going on, I'm going to use the fresh Freesia, which is one of these colors. I took the stamps, these are a cling set of stamps, they're not the polymer ones, so they work just the same. You take it out of the box, stick it on your acrylic block, tap, tap, tap gently, don't push too hard, and stamp it onto the layer that goes on the inside. And then you just peel off your stamp and put it back into the box, and that's good. And now that we know it's safely stamped, we can go ahead, actually we don't need this ink anymore, so we can close that one out of the way. Now that we know it's safely stamped, we can put it on the inside. And then we're going to use the happy birthday to you, and I'm going to use the berry burst, which not only coordinates with the designer series paper, it's actually the color of the body of the card. So we'll put a little tap, tap, tap just to gently get it inked up, and put that up in the top corner. Give it a clean, peel it off, put it back in the box. So that one's done, and we can close that ink. Then what we need to do is bring in the scrap, and I've got the lovely raccoon, and we're going to do him with the Memento black ink. So just, sometimes if it's a bigger stamp, it's better to put the stamp face down and tap the ink onto it. Then you can see that you've got full coverage. And then stamp him like that. Peel the stamp off the block and pop it off to one side. So that's done with. And then the next part is to get the Zany Zoo dies, which match the Zany Zoo stamp set. And if you buy them as a bundle, if you buy the stamps and the dies at the same time, you get a 10% discount. So we'll take the die, run it through the machine, and this is what we get. So it's all die cut out. And then I'm going to use the stamping blend. So I just gathered together all the colors that match the paper, and we'll go ahead and just quickly color him in. So we'll give all his dark pieces this little mask, little hamburger mask, and then his body, whoops, we can just do in the lighter. This is the Smokey Slate Grey. And the nice thing about the alcohol markers is it doesn't matter if you go double. they all just blend into each other with regular markers. You know how sometimes you can see all the lines of where you pre-colored? That doesn't happen with this. And then we're going to take the Azure Afternoon. This is one of the new colors. It's so pretty. So we'll give him some blue eyes, and then with the bullet end, and then using the coloring end, we'll color the balloon. We'll have a blue one and a fresh Freesia one, a lovely lime one, and then the berry burst, which again matches the main body of the cardstock, although the lime matches the fold over section. So there's the little guy done. So we'll go ahead and we'll stick the white onto the Azure Afternoon, and then we'll put that layer onto the lime, and we're going to attach the little raccoon with dimensionals, so we'll actually do that very last. So what you need to do now is center this, but making sure that there's enough room that you can lift this up. You don't want your fold not to be able to move out of the way to open the inside. And the best way I found to do this was to more or less line it into place. So this matches at the top. This looks nice because it's lined up with the bottom. And then open it, open the diagonal, and then close this, but keep tight hold. Don't let it wander off anywhere. And then put the sticky on here. It fell off the edge there, but then holding it as best in place as you can, bring it back just gently, don't press it down. Make sure that all the corners line up nicely, and then press it into place. Try moving it and slipping it. You can do it with the glue, with the mono adhesive liquid glue, because that gives you a little bit of movement. But I just thought if I flipped it over and tried to hold it in place as best I can, that worked fairly well. So I'm going to just put some dimensionals now on the back of this little die cut guy. Peel the backing papers off, fling them across my stamping room as is my wont, and then pop that into place, and voila, that's I think a really lovely little diagonal joy fold card. So it's interactive. You don't just get to open it, you get to open it twice before you find the greeting, and then there's plenty of room to write inside. There's the original. As you remember, this is just the designer series paper the other way because it isn't directional. I think that's a really cute and easy card, and there's so many different varieties that you can make using that. So if you like what you've seen, please go ahead and subscribe. You don't want to miss any more exciting Technique Tuesdays. I like likes, I like comments. If there's any questions you need to ask, feel free to put them in the comment box below, or email me. My email address is always listed in the bottom. And last but not least, thanks so much for watching.